Hello, everybody. Welcome to Bible class. We are studying the Sermon on the Mount, and right now we are going to look at Matthew chapter 5, verses 29 and 30. Matthew 5, 29 and 30. I'm going to try something that I haven't before. I'm going to try to put the scripture up there. Let's see if this works. All right, you should be able to see my Bible program eSword here. And I have our passage, Matthew 5:29. If thy right eye offend thee, pluck it out and cast it from thee. For it is profitable for thee that one of thy members should perish, and not that thy whole body should be cast into hell. And if thy right hand offend thee, cut it off and cast it from thee. For it is profitable for thee that one of thy members should perish, and not that thy whole body should be cast into hell. Now, if we look at the context of this, we see from verses 27 through 30 that he's talking about lust. Thou shalt not commit adultery, but I say to you, whosoever looks on a woman to lust after her hath committed adultery with her already in his heart. So there's an issue here with avoiding this sin of adultery and avoiding this temptation. And Jesus is saying that we should go to great lengths to avoid this. Now, is he saying that we should actually pluck our eyes out if we have a problem looking at women? Or I guess women have a problem looking at men too. But is it saying that we should pluck our eyes out? Or if our hand offends us, is he telling us actually to do that? In one commentary that I read, I think it was Origen, O-R-I-G-E-N. He was a preacher in the, I can't remember what, it was like the 2nd century or 3rd century. It was very early, very close to Christ and the apostles and the beginning of the church. He was after that, but he actually took Jesus' words quite literally. And the commentary that I was reading says that he emasculated himself so that he could avoid temptation. Well, I don't think Jesus is telling us that we need to mutilate ourselves, that if you commit a sin with your eyes, that you should just cut your eyes out. Or if you commit a sin with your hand, the Bible talks about the 3 sins: lust of the flesh, lust of the eye, pride of life. Well, in order to get over lust of the eye, why don't you just take your eyes out? Seems like it would be better, right? Well, that's not what Jesus is saying. He's using what's called hyperbole. Hyperbole is an exaggeration for the sake of emphasis. So here in verse 29, if your right eye offend thee, pluck it out. And this is hyperbole, so he's taking it to an extreme. But what's the message that he's trying to get across? Well, he's trying to say he's trying to say that we need to take great effort to avoid sin. If we're going to live pure lives, it's not just a responsibility of everybody else. Like, for example, it's not just the woman's responsibility to dress in a way that a man won't look at her. Taking all, you can't do that. That would require women wrapping themselves up and putting things over their face and making it to where they only have, and people do that over in the Middle East. They wear those outfits. Well, what Jesus is saying is it's your responsibility too. There are, as the man, you're supposed to take precautions not to lust, not to look at women with that lustful attitude, with looking at them with the intent of lusting after them. It wasn't last week, it was 2 weeks ago, but the last class we looked at that passage in Job where he says, I've made a covenant with my eyes, how then shall I look upon a maid? So Job decided beforehand, I'm not going to look with lust in my eyes. But what Jesus is saying is this is a tough thing to do. It's a lot of work. Now, we have here, it says, it's profitable for thee that one of thy members should perish, and not thy whole body should be cast into hell. The King James uses the word hell when it talks about several things. Sometimes the word is Hades, though, but here, I don't like to have this up when I read because these numbers are distracting, but what I can do with this Bible program is I can mouse over the word hell. I can click on it. It gives me the Greek word and the pronunciation, Gehenna or Gehenna. And it tells me that that word occurs 12 times in the New Testament. And then Strong says it's of Hebrew origin. The Valley of Hinnom, or a son of Hinnom, actually. Gehenna or Gehinnom is a valley of Jerusalem used figuratively for the place or state of everlasting punishment, hell. And Thayer gives that definition too. It's the place of future punishment called Gehenna or Gehenna of fire that was originally the Valley of Hinnom south of Jerusalem, where the filth and dead animals of the city were cast out and burned, a fit symbol of the wicked and their future destruction. One of the commentaries I was reading said that when they would execute somebody, they would take them to the Valley of Gehenna and they would cast them off the stone there. Then they would throw a big rock on their chest. And then if they still survived, they would stone them until they were dead. So Gehenna, or the Valley of Hinnom, rather, in Jerusalem, was this place of execution, as well as a place to throw. It was a place where they threw their trash, their refuse, and they burned it. And because of that, there was often fire there in the Valley of Hinnom. So you can see why Jesus would use that phrase or that word there, Gehenna, to talk about eternal punishment. Because, well, here it is, this valley where you're executed, where trash is thrown, and it's pretty much always burning. That's a great comparison to actual hell. So he's saying it's profitable for thee that one of thy members should perish, and not that your whole body should be cast into this place, should be cast into hell. And the same thing with verse 30. If thy right hand offend thee, cut it off and cast it from thee. For it's profitable that one of thy members should perish, and not that thy whole body should be cast into hell. And what Jesus is saying here, I'm going to bring it back just to me here. You know what? I'll leave the screen share up. I kind of like it. I kind of like having the Bible verse up. What Jesus is saying here is, well, he's saying what is it worth to sacrifice for your Christianity? And the answer should be everything, right? We should be willing to sacrifice everything for our Christianity. Because when we get to heaven, if you go over and you look at the book of Revelation, let's see, Revelation 20, Revelation 21, I guess I can do this. And we have verse 4 here. This is talking about the new heaven and the new earth. First heaven and the first earth were passed away. This is going to be where God is. The New Jerusalem's coming down from God out of heaven, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. Behold, I heard a great voice out of heaven saying, behold, the tabernacle of God is with men. He shall dwell with them, and they shall be his people, and God himself shall be with them and be their God. But here in verse 4, it says, and God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, neither sorrow, nor crying, neither shall there be any pain, for the former things are passed away. Pain comes from loss, often. So we lose something and it causes us grief. It causes us to cry about these things. We experience pain. Sometimes our bodies actually go through pain. And well, when Jesus is talking in Matthew chapter 5, he says that, if your right eye offends you, pluck it out. That's causing yourself pain, right? But you see, when we get to heaven, all of that pain is going to go away. There's not going to be any pain. There's not going to be any sorrow or crying. Both of these things come from loss. You lose something, it causes you to sorrow, it causes you to cry. There's going to be no more death. You won't lose the ones you loved or you love, because, well, in heaven, all of these things are done away and we're going to be with God forever. That's great. So if you're in that position where you will have nothing taken away from you, what would you give up now in order to get there? And I guess this is the idea of delayed gratification, right? I have a book called The Marshmallow Test. It's actually quite interesting. It shows that children who learn to delay their gratification tend to do better in life. So the marshmallow test is you have a kid, you put the kid in the room, and you give the kid a marshmallow, and you say, you can stay here for 10 minutes. And these are little kids. You're going to be in here for 10 minutes. And if you eat the marshmallow, that's fine. But if you don't eat the marshmallow, I'll give you another marshmallow. So you get 2 marshmallows if you wait for it. And they tested the kid. And some kids would say, well, forget waiting 10 minutes. I just want 1 marshmallow now. That's fine. But a lot of the kids would wait. They would not eat the marshmallow until the 10 minutes were up, and then they'd be given another one. And, it's probably, well, it's a lot better, right? You saved that first marshmallow, and now you have 2 of them. And not only do you have twice as much as what you could have had before, but you also have the gratification or the feeling of gratification. Is that the right word? You have the feeling that you've done something good, and that you feel proud of yourself for delaying, because it's not easy for a little kid to just not eat a marshmallow. You put the marshmallow in there and they want to do that, but they wait and they make it through the 10 minutes, and now you not only get your reward, but there's a good feeling that goes along with that. And those marshmallows sure are sweeter. And this is the idea of heaven, right? We have this wonderful place where we're going to get everything we ever need. But in order to get there, we're going to have to give up some of the things on this earth that are valuable to us. If your eye causes you to miss out on heaven, what are you going to choose? Are you going to choose your eye so that you can see right now but miss out on heaven? And actually, the way Jesus talks about it, he doesn't say, well, there's heaven, which is great, so you're giving up something to go to this great place. What he's actually saying is, you're giving up something to avoid going to this horrible place, hell. So if you eat the marshmallow, you'll be punished horribly. That's how we train children, isn't it? If you do this, you're going to receive a punishment. So a child will not do something and avoid that because they've been threatened with punishment. I mean, sometimes if your child is like one of my children, who I won't name, but one of my children, when she is given a command, she'll not do it for 2 minutes and then just right into it. So she needs to be reminded, did I tell you not to do this? Did I tell you not to do this? And children are challenging sometimes, but we love her anyway. We love both of our children. But anyway, Jesus is saying, avoid this thing, because this is going to lead to much worse. So we have that principle of delayed gratification. You give up something that you love now, and it's going to do two things. It's first going to give you something very good, and second, it's going to cause you to avoid something very bad. So if your right eye, let's go back to Matthew 5. 39. And if your right eye offends you, pluck it out, cast it from you. What will we give up in order to make it to heaven and in order to avoid going to hell? Jesus' argument is pretty sound too, because if you're going to lose your whole body in hell, how much of your body would you give up? If everything is going to be cast into hell and you're going to lose everything, well, why not just give up some things in order to avoid that? The truth about heaven is, though, you give up some things, you're going to get everything back. We won't have a physical eye or physical hand that we may have cast away, but we're going to have new bodies, and those are going to be incorruptible. We're never going to die again. There's two more passages, two more scriptures that I would like to look at with regards to what will we give up with regard to, and remember, this is talking about lust and sexual sin. So it is in that context. Your right eye and your right eye and your right hand, cut those off. People's right hand, most people are right-handed, so your right hand is the most useful hand. I don't know about the right eye. I think I'm left-eyed, actually. You can tell when you shoot. Which eye when you point your gun and line up the sights. Close both eyes, and whichever one you have the sights actually lined up on, that's what I use. I think I'm left-eyed. So if I cut out my right eye, I'd still be able to shoot, I guess. I don't know, that's my dominant eye. But he's not making a big deal about dominant eye or anything like that. But would you give up your eye? What else would you give up? Matthew 19:12. This is in the context of, we know Matthew 19:9, whosoever puts away his wife except for fornication and shall marry another commits adultery. So it's even in the context of adultery, like Matthew chapter 5, speaking about taking your own eye in your own hand and stuff like that. But there are some, verse 12 says, there are some eunuchs which are born from their mother's womb. That is, some people are born to where they cannot have children. There are some eunuchs which were made eunuchs of men. So you had people like Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who were, when they were taken by the Babylonians and put to work in the king's household, they were made eunuchs. They were forced, that I guess, to take away the sexual desire, the urge to have a family and things like that. So there are some who are made eunuchs of men, and there be eunuchs which have made themselves eunuchs for the kingdom of heaven's sake. Some people who have decided to remain celibate. And there's nowhere in the Bible which says if you're a priest, you have to remain celibate. But some people, and Jesus is specifically talking about those who, here in Matthew 19, he's specifically talking about those who are divorced. If you're divorced and you didn't put away your spouse for fornication, if you marry again, well, you're committing adultery. So what you have to do is you have to become a eunuch for the kingdom. You don't actually mutilate yourself, but what you do is you live that lifestyle of celibacy, and you give that up. And well, why do you do that? Well, because you don't want to be an adulterer. You don't want to go into sin. So what do you give up? You give up that ability to have a family and to be together and to be intimate with somebody in that way. And well, that's a sacrifice that you make. Another passage that we have is in Luke 14. Let's go to Luke 14:26. What would you give up for the kingdom? If any man come to me and hate not his father and mother and wife and children and brethren and sisters, yea, and his own life also, he cannot be my disciple. Hate your mother? Oh man, I can't hate my mother. When he says hate your mother, what he's saying is you should be willing to give up even your family members for Christianity. And some people have to. What happens when your parents tell you, if you become a Christian, you're not our son anymore? I know some people who have had that happen. One man in particular, his parents said to him, if you become a Christian, or if you are baptized, I think he was Catholic, and his parents said, if you leave and join this church, he's talking about the Church of Christ, then you're not our son anymore. And this man did that. He became a Christian because he knew that that's what the Bible says to do. You have to be baptized. You have to become part of the one church. And he became a Christian, and his father never spoke to him again. I think he died that way too, just disowned him. So what do you do in that situation? If your parents tell you, you have to choose between following me or between following God. And if you they won't actually say it that way. They won't say, well, you either follow me or follow God. Nobody's going to say that. But if you do that, and family puts pressure on you often and says, well, you got to stop doing this. Maybe they're from another religion or something like that. Who are you going to choose? Are you going to choose God and his commands, or are you going to choose your family? So it's in this sense that Jesus means, if you come to me and hate not your father, mother, wife, children, brethren, sisters, yea, and his own life also, he can't be my disciple. So what would you be willing to give up on this earth in order to become a Christian and to follow him and in order to make it to heaven? Well, Jesus says here, you have to give up your own life. Give up your own life in order to be a Christian. So when he says in Matthew 5, if your eye is causing you problems, take it out. And if your hand is causing you problems, cut it off. That's not even the most that Jesus asks from us. He wants us to be thoroughly committed to following him and willing to sacrifice whatever we need to sacrifice. Now, y'all better not go out there and start chopping off your hands or you're cutting your eyes out just for Christ. That's not what he means. But he wants his disciples, Jesus wants his disciples to be thoroughly committed and ready to sacrifice whatever they can. Thank you so much for, that's the end of Bible class. We'll pick up next time with, let's get back to that. We'll pick up next time with verses 31 and 32. Divorce. Hey, we talked about that a little bit today, but we have, it has been said, whosoever shall put away his wife, let him give him her writing of divorcement. But I say to you that whosoever shall put away his wife, saving for the cause of fornication, causes her to commit adultery, and whosoever shall marry her that is divorced commits adultery. So there's something that we're going to have to spend a little bit of time. We'll spend next class talking about that. I hope you had a great time. I hope you learned a lot and were enriched by the scriptures. And I hope that you have a blessed time and a blessed day. May God bless you.